Molly, another companion video to the previous one that you posted mere hours ago? Yes. I was thinking of elaborating further on what I had on my mind, which is older tech in general. I feel like a lot of people are really overstating what the term e-waste means. Um, and I see this with like a lot of gaming circles. They instantly think, "Oh, this computer is a bit old, or it doesn't run Windows 11, or whatever. It's e-waste," and I hate that term because I seriously feel like everyone just is in such a pursuit of the latest and greatest and strongest and this and that, that they're kind of realizing that they're they don't need all of that. Like, I know that, if you want to play the latest games and whatever, sure, you're probably going to need a beefy computer, but do you need to play the latest games is my question. There's so many people who feel the need to push their older hardware to play the newest games, and in my head I'm like, okay, but you have your 900 series GPU, right? That's the one I'm using on my Windows XP computer, but it would be perfect for Windows 10 PC just fine. Um, they look at their old computer and they think it's pointless or useless, or they should just throw it out when they get another one. I'm against that. I personally feel that is wasteful, and I personally am of the opinion that people should think about how they use their hardware more and more wisely. Why? Yes, sure, your old computer won't play, I don't fucking know, The Last of Us 2 Remaster Remade RTX Remix Retro Renewed version that has Joel's I don't know, nipple hair strands or something. I don't know. Just you won't get that to run on your old hardware, and that's okay. Why? There's so many older games that everyone just seems to ignore in this pursuit of the latest and the greatest. They kind of forget that even their older thing can do so much. Um, I have a Galaxy S22 Ultra, and I am still thinking of whether or not I want to move over to an iPhone. But I'm also really considering going back to a Galaxy S10 Plus. Yes, I'm thinking of downgrading, which funny to say. But hear me out. I had an S10 Plus. The glass broke because I dropped it one too many times, and one flaw with Samsungs of that era especially is that they were curved, so if you dropped it, it would get pretty badly damaged. Anyway, that aside, it was such a good phone that I would say, even though it came out in 2019, I feel like it would still be usable for years to come. Why? Headphone jack, SD card slot, you can get it with up to 1 terabyte or of built-in storage, and you'll say, "Oh, but Samsung only offered a few years of support." Okay, but you can still flash a custom ROM. You can get the latest Android running on it with no problems, no performance issues, or anything of that sort. You're really you really don't need to buy a new phone every year. You don't really need to get the latest and greatest. I remember when I was doing my older tech little challenge, detox, whatever it's called. Um, I remember I was using the first gen SE, and it was just perfectly fine. Even though the phone came out almost a decade ago, everything worked. It was snappy, it was fast, and sure, you'll say, well, did you use it for everything? No, but I don't. I'm not a power user. I think that's another nuance. That if you're a power user, I know some power users, like power users, not like the, oh yeah, I know how to use my phone, because like I can flash a custom ROM and I can do nerdy stuff, but there's like some people who seriously are so into the latest and greatest and this and this and that, and to the point where they couldn't use a device that is like 2 3 years old because they're just so reliant on using the absolute newest, most recent, most modern technology. And I don't know, I don't think I could ever be that. At least with phones, I'm very casual about my use. uh I know some people are gonna say, "Oh, you're well, so it seems like you're a normie or whatever," and it's like, okay, so like I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with just using your phone for what you want it to use. You don't have to turn it into, you don't have to quote unquote maximize every single thing on it, even though, very ironically, I'm talking about maximizing use. um but anyway, I would even say a decade old phone is still usable. And I bought an iPhone 5s earlier this year from this sort of flea market. There's like a day where a lot of people are just setting up their own makeshift flea markets in a part of town, and everyone just goes and buys stuff. I bought an iPhone 5s for $7 or $8. I've used it as a camera in multiple vlogs where I used the camera. That's what I was using. It made its money worth just for that. But even though it cannot do social media, even though it cannot do YouTube, it still does Discord, even if it's not the best performing, and it still does photos and videos just fine, and music. I would even still say it's usable with caveats. Like, usability to me, if I want to use it as a dumb phone, I could. And I'm thinking, can it do calls? Yes. Can it do texts? Yes. Can it run some basic apps such as Google Maps? Yeah. And that's all I want. Um, if we're breaking down things to their absolute most minimalistic use ever. Unfortunately for me, Google Maps is a non negotiable for one reason alone, which is I am still not fully acquainted with the entire country of Netherlands, and sometimes it's good being able to have some sort of backup, because I don't think it would be okay for me to just print something on um just just to check out like a huge fold out map. Not to mention, I'm not someone who drives. I don't own a car. I don't drive. Um, in Europe, it's fine not to own a car and not to drive. I know that in the US, there's a lot of people talking about how, like, oh, if you don't own a car and you don't drive a car, it means you failed or something. And it's like, that's not a thing in Europe. I take the train, I take buses. That's totally fine with me. Anyway, my point is, older things are still very usable with caveats. Like, what do you want to do with it? I used an XP computer for a month, and I proved basically that yes, you can use an old operating system and an older computer for daily tasks. I was able to go on the internet. I was able to listen to music. Sure, it was iTunes and CDs, but it was iTunes and CDs. That's still music. Um, I was able to write my blogs. I was able to play video games. I played through multiple games, including San Andreas. That was totally fine. I recently set it up again next to my regular computer, and I beat GTA 3. My point is, older computers are still very usable with some caveats. Like, sure, it's not going to perform as good as the latest, but ultimately, I'm thinking if all you're doing on your computer is writing for a book, I think anything that can run Microsoft Word, it's still going to be viable enough for you. I think a lot of people are just buying for the sake of buying, and they don't want to think how what and how they can use their thing and extend its lifetime as much as possible. And it is quite unfortunate. Even though I do want to change the S22 Ultra, it's mostly because I want to either go back to something that I like more or move to a different ecosystem. But if that wasn't an issue, I would have probably kept using this phone for like at least a few more years. And I know people are going to say, well, the last version of One UI is going to drop this year, and you're not going to get the one after, and yada yada. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can just flash a custom ROM if I want to, and if not, guess what? My phone is still going to be functional. Apps are still going to work. They're still going to be supported for years to come. Um, I feel like people are still falling into this fear mongering of, oh, if you have something unsupported for 10 microseconds, it will get bombarded by every single malicious actor. And the answer is no. As long as you take basic precautions and you know how to be careful and you know how to stay safe, you as a regular day-to-day consumer, you'll be fine. You will not have any problems, any issues. Heck, if I could have gotten a better battery for my first gen SE, I would have straight up just used that as a daily device. I'm using an SE3, and I love it. I adore it. Some people are like, oh, but isn't it old? It still has the home button. I like it. I like it that way. I'm grandma. Um, doesn't it have a bad battery? No, not at all. I actually, I can attest to that. I can use this phone a whole day, and it has no issue. And if I don't intensely use it all day, can just, I can use it into the second day. Um, I just feel like people are probably a bit too wasteful, or they're, I don't know. I think they're also way too reliant on those battery drain tests on YouTube, and they think that those are reflective of how it's going to be with casual use. Like, yeah, someone who has YouTube and this and that, being in constant use every single second, will probably get the same times, but I want to believe that the average person isn't going to be on their phone all the time. Like, yeah, there's probably some people who have like 10 hours of daily screen time, which is quite frankly kind of scary, since that's like almost your whole day. Like mine is sleeping. You hardly have any time off the screen. But if you have like a normal amount of screen time, like a couple hours a day, you'll be fine. You'll be good. You won't have any issues whatsoever. So I would say, before upgrading your devices and getting something newer, think about why you want it. Do you want it because you want something newer? Do you want it because you want something better? Do you want it because you're not a fan of the platform, or not a fan of this and that? Or what is exactly the cause? Because, for example, my S10 had all those extra features and it was smaller, and I really want a small phone because the S22 Ultra is way too big, and I've been having issues with my hands to the point where I'm seeking out smaller phones more actively, to the point of I would even be fine not picking up the better model if it meant that I would be more comfortable, because ultimately I feel like unless you're using every single feature, the pro model isn't really going to do much, especially nowadays. Anyway, see ya.